presidential primary contenders and know the Syrian refugee crisis will be a growing issue for our next president. Currently, President Obama has proposed admitting 85,000 refugees from the Middle Eastern regions, including Syria and Iran, in 2016, and another 100,000 in 2017. While it is yet to be decided how these numbers will play out following the Paris and Brussels attacks, one of the most visible indicators of Muslim immigration in a community are with women in traditional dress, as we see here. Often the West stereotypes the identities of these women. Today we will compare and contrast Muslim women's roles by examining Muhammad's two most famous wives and modern Muslim women. We will look at individual expression of identity based on three things: education and employment, dress, and military action or jihad. Let us begin by introducing Khadija bint Khuwailid, Muhammad's first wife, and Aisha bint Abu Bakr, his last and youngest wife. Khadija was an excellent businesswoman. Aisha was considered to be exceptionally intelligent, and Muhammad encouraged her education. So much so that scholars today attribute over 2,000 wise sayings or hadiths to her. Looking at these women and modern Muslim women, there are three contrasting factors that affect individual expressions of identity with regard to education and employment, dress, and military action. These three contrasting factors are male opinion, circumstances surrounding social order, and cultural influence. Firstly, male opinion encouraged Khadija and Aisha both professionally and educationally. Male opinion allowed Khadija to continue her business and provide education and respect for Aisha's intellect. In contrast, male opinion today prohibits Muslim women from education and employment in many countries. In 2015, a movie was made about Malala Yousafzai, who we see pictured here. She was a Muslim girl who, in seeking education for girls in Pakistan, confronted Muslim male scholars who believed women were to stay in their houses and not come out for education or employment. Malala dared to speak out against this male opinion and was shot in 2012 while on her school bus. Male opinion in the past encouraged employment and education, but discourages it today. Secondly, circumstances which threaten social order affect how Muslim women are permitted to appear or dress. Initially, a jealous Aisha decided what dress was appropriate for followers of Muhammad in his household, as she did not want her position as favorite wife to be threatened. Conversely, today's authority on women's dress has shifted into the hands of men. Men decide women's attire, particularly in more conservative Muslim countries. But even in Germany, non-Muslim women on New Year's Eve were harassed and beaten because their dress did not cover them sufficiently to Muslim male standards. The authority behind dress standards, created to maintain social order, has shifted from women in the past to men in the present. Thirdly, cultural influence affects women's military involvement in their participation in jihad. During the turmoil surrounding Muhammad's successor Aisha rode out to battle, leading men on her camel. Because her participation was culturally distracting, she was removed from the battle by her own soldiers being ordered to cut her camel out from under her. Conversely, in today's radical Muslim culture, women are recruited for military jihad against the West. In October 2015, the Daily Mail reported all women's suicide battalions are trained in Syria because ISIS is desperate for military suicide bombers. Cultural influence encourages active jihad today while undermining military participation in the early years of Islam. The three contrasting factors that affect differences in Muslim women's expression of identity are male opinion, circumstances which threaten social order, and cultural influences. In comparison, expressions of identity, including education and employment, dress, and military action or jihad, have been used across time to further Islamic influence and dominance. Education and employment opportunities were used to increase Islam's position. According to scholar Yassine T. Al-Jabouri, Islam did not rise except through Khadija's wealth. Her trade produced wealth and exposure for Islam. As I mentioned before, Aisha was well educated and much of Islamic literature is attributed to her. Furthermore, today there are almost 670,000 students enrolled in Saudi Arabian universities. 2/3 of these students are Muslim women. According to the Saudi Gazette in 2011, only 43% of women employed in Saudi Arabia were Saudi. In 2015, Saudi women's employment increased to 76%. According to these ministries, reason for this dramatic increase in female education and employment is due to fortify Islam as modern. Comparatively, the hijab magnifies the presence of Islam. The Quran states in Surah 33:59 that Muslim women should be distinguished by their dress to promote the values of Islam. The hijab is worn by Muslim women as a representation of their Islamic identity, both past and present. Similarly, the definition of jihad is conditioned to empower Islamic goals. Aisha defined women's jihad in 2 hadiths as a personal battle waged to further Islam. In 2002, the definition of jihad was expanded to include women's participation in suicide attacks and military service. In the United Arab Emirates today, Miriam al-Masuri, who is pictured here, highlights this expanded identity for Muslim women. She flew the F-16 in 2014 on a bombing raid against ISIS in Syria, where, ironically, Muslim women are trained for suicide attacks to also promote Islam. In conclusion, comparing and contrasting individual expression, examining Muslim women's education and employment, dress, and military action or jihad, we see the similarities over time assumed to enhance the presence of Islam and differences between the past and the present based on male opinion, social order, and cultural influences. So, the next time you see a woman in traditional Muslim dress, as we see here, I challenge you to consider the effects of male opinion, social order, and cultural influences, as well as Islamic ideals embodied in their identity. Thank you.